Hey now, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. Welcome to hour number 3 of the Line Talk 99.5. Halfway through. Let's keep it rolling, baby. Tony, by the way, who was texting us on the medicine stuff, which John Bird just ordered, right? The Singers, what was it called? Singer's Delight? Singer's Savior? Singer Save Me Singer? I forgot what it was called. Singer Saving Grace.
Is that Singer's Saving Grace?
Singer Saving Grace. Tony says, I was the singer for 4th and 1. I am retired from mainstream performing vocal gymnastics. So, this guy is an actual singer from the band 4th and 1. So, how about that?
Thank you, Y friend.
Thank you, Y friend. What is Y friend?
Thank you, my friend.
Okay. Your typing skills, John Bird, you've also lost those along with your voice.
Shut up.
Okay. No, you shut up. No, you shut up.
No, you shut up.
Shoot up. That's going to get us banned on YouTube. Is that shoot up like pew pew, or is that shoot up like with drugs? Could be both. Interchangeable. All right, 205-545-9950. 545-9950. Leslie says, could always have JB play guitar karaoke featuring Andrew Mclain. No, we're not doing that. We're not. I know people have been asking about that. I'm not a singer. Like, I could do maybe some back.
Please.
No, I'm not.
Please.
No.
Please.
I'm not doing it. Not doing it. I'm not singing. I pointed out that I even get uncomfortable just hearing people sing.
I quit.
You quit. Okay. Sure you do. Sure you do, buddy. Taylor says, too bad you don't have a giveaway. This will be a perfect time for the John Bird spelling bee. Yeah, I would. See, you can see his spelling.
That hurts.
His spelling is atrocious because every time he types, it mispronounces. All right, so let's go. Memorial Day weekend. Yesterday was Memorial Day. I hope you guys got to spend some time with friends and family. Ironically enough, my mom's in town from Missouri. So she came over to our house yesterday, and I did something that I never do, and I cooked in the middle of the day. And that's a wild one for me because I don't eat during the day. But I did it anyway, and I ended up eating later that night. I made her walking tacos, which is kind of a cop-out. But she said she enjoyed it. I baked some cookies, Little Miss Homemaker over here. And we had a great time. Hopefully I'll get to see her again before she heads back out of town. But on Memorial Day, for our leaders, our government leaders, many of them, as per usual, per protocol, if you will, get out there and they speak. They go to different Memorial Day events and speak at those events and do whatever. But that's not for everybody. Not every political leader, not every government official, and I'm usually talking like mayors, governors, and presidents. Not all of them get out there and honor those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, such as Mayor Jacob Fry from Minneapolis. He took to social media on Memorial Day to honor George Floyd, none other than Saint George Floyd of fentanyl. He says, today we remember George Floyd, who was murdered by a former Minneapolis police officer 6 years ago. That moment changed our city forever. Yeah, it turned from an ish hole to a really big ish hole. He said it forced Minneapolis to confront painful truths about race, policing, inequity, and trust, and demanded hard conversations and accountability. Since Floyd's murder, our city has been challenged not just to say we've changed, but to prove it. The weight of what happened is still with our city 6 years later, and the responsibility to keep moving forward together is too. I know we can keep building a Minneapolis that is safer, more accountable, and more worthy of the people who call it home. I'm sorry, Jacob Fry, but no, yesterday is not the day we remember George Floyd. Yesterday's the day that we remember people that George Floyd would never be able to hold a candle to. That George Floyd would never be comparable to in any way, shape, or form. But these guys, they're more worried about the 6-year anniversary of George Floyd having an overdose in the street. And you think about the audacity it's no surprise that Democrats are making a big deal about the anniversary of the George Floyd deal. We understand that. We expect that out of them. But it's as if many completely overlooked Memorial Day and went straight to the George Floyd stuff. That was also the case with one Tim Walz of Minnesota, who, according to people that were a part of the event, skipped a Minnesota, I guess a Minneapolis, I don't know if Minneapolis, St. Paul, skipped a Memorial Day event honoring our fallen heroes to go hang out at a George Floyd event and dance around with people. I'm not even joking about this. The people that were at the memorial event, that were part of it, said that Tim Walz was scheduled to speak at said event and that he was a no-show and instead went to a George Floyd memorial celebration, whatever. That's about as disgusting as it gets. If you choose to honor George Floyd. And listen, every loss of life is tragic. Except for like pedos and stuff. But every loss of life is tragic. It is. And I don't want to discount that. But George Floyd was no different than the drug addicts that die in the street across this country every day. Out in LA, out in Seattle, all across the country. It happens on a daily basis. George, on the other hand, just happened to be involved in a police altercation at the time of his overdose. Getting his heart all ramped up and everything else just caused him to kick the bucket. But because the Democrats needed an idol, needed a golden cow in the lead up to the election, George Floyd was the perfect fit. Because that's what it's about. And I want everybody in the black community to understand this. If you do think of George Floyd as some great and wonderful guy that was done dirty by law enforcement in Minneapolis, it's your right to think that. If you think he was killed by Derek Chauvin and these other police officers, that's your right to think that. And I understand everybody's got different opinions on this, and that's okay. But never for a second do I want you to think the Democrats are honoring George Floyd because they cared about George Floyd or that they cared about his family or his kids or anything or anybody in the black community. They don't care. It was all about politics. The big show, the big song and dance, the Democrat senators and congressional Democrats did in the days after George Floyd, where they were wearing the African garb and kneeling in the Capitol Rotunda in honor of George Floyd. Like, it's all a show. They don't care. They don't care. They care about power. But they also, as what was on full display yesterday, they also don't care about the bravest men and women that call this country home, that get out there, that leave their families and travel to all corners of the world to do what has to be done to protect the safety, well-being, and everything that this country stands for, to protect that ultimately give their lives for that. They don't care about them either. Again, on full display yesterday. Can't even be debated. These people have no moral compass. They have no conscience. They don't care about anyone but themselves. And fortunately for them, they have a bunch of pawns in this country. People that will follow them to the ends of the earth. Because their agendas, their talking points, their presentation, if you will, the issues they choose to fight for, tugs at the heartstrings of the mentally and emotionally weak. The unstable people in this country. The people that maybe don't feel included and that want to find a way to feel accepted, or maybe are just downright weird. Those are the victims of the Democrat Party. And there's many of them. You see them all over the place. So while Democrats are out yesterday honoring George Floyd, Donald Trump at Arlington National Cemetery honored the 13 wonderful souls that were lost in the Iranian conflict, in the early days of this conflict. It was a great speech. It was a great ceremony. It was meaningful. It was heartfelt. But you didn't see Democrats doing that. They were honoring George Floyd and they were bitching about redistricting. That's what they do, because there's one person that each Democrat cares about, and that is themselves. They care about themselves. They don't care about you. They don't care about whatever color you are, wherever you live, wherever you're from, whatever your background is. They don't care about you. And hopefully, one day, the people across this country that continue to vote for these monsters, hopefully one day, they'll wake up. They'll wake up and see. Many have. A lot of people have. That's why you had record numbers voting for Donald Trump for the third time. This is a guy running that's had everything thrown at him. Assassination attempts, slander, lies, manipulation, arrest, raids, everything. There's nobody in politics or that has ever been in politics that would have been able to survive the onslaught that guy took on. Not one. You can't name me one. Most people would have dropped out. Most people would have said, this ain't worth it. I'll bow out and back away. But this guy kept on. And what happened because of that fight, with all the cards, the entire deck stacked against him, he ends up winning. Because of what? Because of his fight, but also because of those very Democrats continuing to prove that they don't care about nobody but themselves. Speaking of George Floyd, I said earlier that I watched the roast of Kevin Hart, and I actually forgot about this. And Tony Hinchcliffe's in his set as he was roasting Kevin Hart, he said at one point, he said, "The black community is so proud of you, Kevin. Right now, George Floyd is looking up at us all laughing so hard he can't breathe." And it's funny. It's a joke. They made a lot of jokes that were very, that were very borderline. But that's funny. And now Kevin Hart has to go around and explain to people what a roast is. Of course, he was on, I guess this was either last week, this may have even been today. He was on The Breakfast Club with Charlemagne, and they're like, well, I don't know why he's got to make jokes like that. Another person made a joke about Charlie Kirk. It was distasteful, but many of those jokes that they do are distasteful. That's the point of it. It's to be shocking. Do you want it, Bert? I sent it to you. You want to hear part of this? Kevin Hart explaining the to the Breakfast Club show why it was, Tony Hinchcliffe made the joke, and that's part of it. It's fun, and it shows how soft society is, by the way. That they just can't they can't handle it. And it also shows the pedestal they put George Floyd on. You would think after 6 years that we'd kind of be like, okay, now that all the evidence has come out, maybe George Floyd wasn't a great, wonderful guy that we're painting him out to be. But no, instead they've doubled down. And liberals always look to idolize the worst people. They have a long history of doing that. I don't know if you've noticed, but they have a long history. This is Kevin Hart on The Breakfast Club trying to defend Tony Hinchcliffe making a George Floyd joke.
Yeah, the George Floyd joke, it wasn't a tasteful joke to our culture, to our audience, but our audience that's watching the roast, if you're watching the roast, you get why they're doing it. You get why the racial humor is on the table. Like, it's not, I wasn't shocked. Like, that's what they do. Go look at the Tom Brady one. Like, that's what they do. It happens every year when they do a roast. It's not new. This isn't it's not a new agenda. It's not a new approach to comedy.
Do you feel like Tony Hinchcliffe went too far when he made that joke about George Floyd?
It's Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't expect less. I don't expect more.
I feel like you're saying going too far is the point. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yes, I mean,
okay.
That's why you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say this, but I'm going to because we're being honest. People are talking about that joke. Talk about his set. Tony Hinchcliffe arguably had the best set, or one of the best sets, between Tony and Cheryl, and I would say Naeem had a really strong set.
Naeem had a very strong set. I was laughing out loud at Tony until that joke.
Until the joke.
But not even just that joke. I don't like when people joke about violent, tragic death. I like Pete's set, and then I was like, why you had to say something about Charlie Kirk?
Pete had a great set too. Pete had a Charlie Kirk joke in there. Yeah. Like, would I tell those jokes? No. But do I get why they're being told?
So he's
Yes.
talking about Pete Davidson. He's like, well, I was laughing until they made fun of my Lord and Savior, George Floyd. And then I didn't like it anymore. That was too far. You made a joke about George Floyd. Now, Charlie Kirk, if you want to make a joke about him being shot, that's okay. But not George Floyd. I mean, even comparing George Floyd, can you imagine living in a society where you don't have to imagine this? But I was going to say, can you imagine living in a society where people compare George Floyd to Charlie Kirk? Come on. A husband and a father, a God-fearing man that was out spreading the gospel. The other guy trying to pass a fake $20 bill while high on fentanyl. What a world we live in. Earnest Financial, retirewithernest.com. Retirewithernest.com. My buddy David Ernest can get you retired comfortably and appropriately. You want to make sure your money's growing. You want to make sure you get to do the things you want to do after retirement. 55 or older and over 50K in your retirement, you're a prime candidate. But if you're younger than that and got over 50K, you're a good candidate. Call him, 833-596-7233. Been doing this over 45 years, man. 833-596-7233. And all of his information online, retirewithernest.com. When you talk to David, make sure you tell him that Andrew Mclain sent you. All right, the S&P just hitting an all-time high moments ago amid optimism. And there's a lot of good things going on with the stock market over. I think what has happened is the stock market has already factored in kind of what the impact would be of all of this, and they've just the markets have kind of just settled down and said, hey, let's do our thing. This thing's going to play out like it's going to play out. I mean, the U.S. has been in firm control of this thing since day one, and you're dealing with, radicals that don't want to give any leeway whatsoever, and they certainly can't give off the perception to their people that they're giving or negotiating or losing in any way. Like, at the end of this, the Iranian regime has to have the ability to go to their people and say, we won. That's their priority. No matter how bad they get obliterated or beat down, they have to go back to their people and be able to twist this in a way. And they've done a great job of twisting the narrative, not just in their own country, but here. Many of our esteemed news outlets have gotten their information directly from Iran. And that's why so much reporting has been so wrong. But that's some good news. I meant, among all of the other things, obviously gas prices are still a problem. But that, as soon as this wraps up, whenever that may be, we'll see a dramatic decrease. But also, I'm excited about the perspective of changing the world order when it comes to oil and who's getting what from where. Because as we pointed out last week, you can be upset about this conflict and how it's affected you personally. But if this never gets addressed, then Iran always has the opportunity to close the Strait of Hormuz and put us back in this position. It's not the U.S.'s fault. It's not Trump's fault that ships have not been able to pass through the strait. It's Iran. And they feel like they should be able to control 20% of the world's, even though that's not where we get our oil. It's a globally traded commodity. And so whatever happens with the overall global supply, it affects it across the board. Plus, you've got a lot of things happening. And here's what people have to understand on the gas thing, is that it's not as if oil gets pulled out of the ground, gets put on a ship, sent to a country, and then they start putting it in gas stations. It's got to go to a refinery. And then once it goes to a refinery, it is then processed, and they do all of the different things to end up turning it into gas that goes in your vehicle. Well, the refineries, there's only so many of them, and they're only located in certain places. And because of burdensome regulations, mostly by Democrats, we have limited ourselves on our own refineries. Well, that has been changed by the Trump administration, and while it will take time to get these things up and running, we are opening up the refineries so we can not only drill for oil, but we can get it refined and put it into gas tanks. That's one thing that when oil is drilled, a lot of it, in a lot of cases, has to go to other countries and then send back. And all of that, that's the whole process. It's the way it's always worked. Now, people are going to continue to be upset about it. And again, that's fine. Everybody's got their own opinion. And here's a text on the text line. I voted for Trump. I am a Republican. Let's see. This is just the same text we get every day from this one. I voted for Trump. I'm a Republican, and I can see he is not helping the struggling American families struggling with cost of living, with gas, groceries, housing prices, housing interest rates, rent, vehicle prices, vehicle insurance, vehicle interest rates. When is this war going to be between the United States of America and Iran going to be over? We are on day 87 of a war Trump said on February 28th that the war would be over within 60 days or less. We are paying the gas prices we paid with Biden. Cost of living is not going down. If Trump was a Democrat president, y'all would be talking bad about him. There's a big difference. Well, first of all, you just compared the gas prices to what we were paying under Biden, so we still haven't exceeded that, yet people seem to be more upset this time around. I'm not going to talk bad about a guy who's doing tremendous things all across the board, and if it were a Democrat would be doing bad things across the board. So, yes, if he was a Democrat and he was doing Democrat things, yes, we would be talking bad about him. Because a Democrat wouldn't be doing things in this manner. A Democrat would just be sending Iran pallets and pallets of cash. So, yes, you are correct. If Trump were a Democrat, we would be talking bad about it. And all of this would be handled in a different way. I will get to that. Let me work my way to it. Let me just first mention, just so I don't miss out on this or skip over this, there was a gunman who opened fire on Secret Service near the White House. I think this happened on, was it Sunday? No, it was Saturday. You had like 20 or 30 gunshots that were heard near the White House on Saturday evening, shortly after Donald Trump announced he had largely negotiated a deal with Iran, which, again, I'll get to in a moment. You had several videos floating out there of White House pool reporters that were out there doing their TV hits outside, and they heard the gunshots ring out. They were ducking. Of course, there was one Nimrod who was over there. She was doing her hit, and then gunshots started ringing out. And she's like, "What is that?" She's like looking around. What is that? She's obviously never been around any firearms whatsoever. The shots were fired near 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue. You had, I'm looking through these videos. The gunman brandished a pistol and fired shots toward the White House 3 times. Secret Service returned fire and took down the shooter. A bystander was also struck by gunfire who tragically later on lost their life. The gunman was identified as 21-year-old Nasir Best and was known to Secret Service and previously tried to access the White House. He died after he was transported to the hospital because Secret Service blasted him. Trump praised the Secret Service, saying, "Thank you to all our great Secret Service and law enforcement for the swift and professional action taken this evening against a gunman near the White House who had a violent history and possible obsession with our country's most cherished structure. The gunman is dead after an exchange of gunfire with Secret Service agents near the White House gates. This event is 1 month removed from the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting and goes to show how important it is for all future presidents to get what will be the most safe and secure space of its kind ever built in Washington, D.C. The national security of our country demands it." It's talking about the ballroom, which does have a tremendous amount of security. And, of course, now that we've moved on, nobody's talking about it because Nasir Best is a black guy that attempted to access and shoot and kill Trump and Trump administration officials. Doesn't really fit the narrative. But they also are very, some on the left do get very excited when they hear that there are gunshots anywhere in Donald Trump's vicinity. As crazy as that sounds, they actually get excited about that. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that real quick. I do want to move on to Iran. Let's do that here in a moment. First, Deep South Construction Pros. My buddies at Deep South Construction Pros, man, this is, I mean, if there's ever been a time to call them since you've heard me talking about them, now is that time. With the tremendous amount of rain, I mean, pouring rain that we've gotten, you have got to reach out to these guys and get them to come check your place out, your basement, your crawl space, because if there's a way for moisture to get in there, it's getting in there, especially as of late. So call them up, let them know I sent you, tell them you want to make sure that everything's on the up and up, and Get if you do have moisture getting in there, remember this is causing mildew and mold and all kinds of stuff to keep your family sick. It's causing structure problems, foundation problems, which they also fix, foundation issues. Get in touch with them. Let them know I sent you. These guys are absolutely going to take care of you. They work for the people of Alabama every single day. They're very proud to be an Alabama-centered company and keeping all that money right here in the local economy. Reach out to them at this number, 256-305-1854. That's 256-305-1854. Deep South Construction Pros.com. So the U.S., we found out, launched precision self-defense strikes. This is what they called them in southern Iran. And I saw the news this morning, and I thought, uh-oh, here we go. Did the deal fall apart, and we've gone back to the bombing? Well, not really, because we are saying that the ceasefire is still in effect. Essentially, what we hear from CENTCOM is that this happened last night. You had terror proxies and IRGC forces attempting to lay mines in the Strait of Hormuz. So the operation hit 2 IRGC boats mining the Strait of Hormuz, and they also hit surface-to-air missile sites in southern Iran. According to CENTCOM spokesperson Captain Tim Hawkins, the strikes were carried out to protect our troops from threats posed by Iranian forces, while officials insisted that the U.S. was still exercising restraint amid the fragile ceasefire environment. Targets included missile launch sites and Iranian boats attempting to emplace mines. U.S. Central Command continues to defend our forces while using restraint during the ongoing ceasefire, they said. So, they essentially are sitting out there doing their thing, and they catch these little boats running around trying to drop some mines. Remember, we didn't really find any mines when there was this big speculation that the IRGC had gone and placed mines but then lost them. And who knows, maybe they're out in the ocean somewhere and they're just kind of long gone. We don't know. But they were saying, we might have mines, you just don't know. And so they were keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed in that way. Well, this time they were actually attempting to do it. We watched them and we said, nah, you're not going to do that. So we blew them up, along with their mines, which I imagine caused a pretty big explosion that would have been entertaining to watch. This comes after what Trump posted on Monday, which was, he said, negotiations with the Islamic Republic of Iran are proceeding nicely. It will only be a great deal for all or no deal at all. Back to the battlefront and shooting, but bigger and stronger than ever before. And nobody wants that. During my discussions on Saturday with President Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, the Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdullah Rahman bin Yassim bin Jabir Al Thani, and Minister Ali Al Tawadi of Qatar, Field Marshal. Okay, he's just going through the list here. Field Marshal of Pakistan, President of Turkey, President of Egypt, King Abdullah of Jordan, and the King of Bahrain. He said, I stated that after all the work done by the United States to try and pull this very complex puzzle together, it should be mandatory that all of these countries, at a minimum, simultaneously sign onto the Abraham Accords. Now, this is where he's going, is trying to make a much larger peace deal for the entire region. Remember, everybody's on the same page, including Iran's neighbors. And these are who we're going to rely on to enforce what we have set in place once we get out of there. And make sure Iran understands that they cannot sit here and control the Strait of Hormuz and charge tolls and everything else. He said those countries discussed are Saudi Arabia, the UAE, who's already a member, Qatar, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Bahrain, already a member. It may be possible that one or two have a reason for not doing so, and that will be accepted. But most should be ready, willing, and able to make this settlement with Iran a far more historic event than it would otherwise be. The Abraham Accords have proven to be, for the countries involved, like the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan, and Kazakhstan, a financial, economic, and social boom, even during this time of conflict and war, with the current members never even suggesting leaving or taking so much as even a pause. The reason for that is the Abraham Accords have been great for them and will be even better for everybody and bring true power, strength, and peace to the Middle East for the first time in 5,000 years. It will be a document respected like no other that has ever been signed anywhere in the world. Its level of importance and prestige will be unparalleled. It should start with the immediate signing by Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and everybody else should follow suit. If they don't, they should not be part of this deal, in that it shows bad intention. In speaking to numerous of the great leaders mentioned above, they would be honored, as soon as our document is signed, to have the Islamic Republic of Iran be as a part of the Abraham Accords. Now imagine a plot twist of that nature. He says, wow, now that would be something special. This will be the most important deal that any of these great but always in conflict countries will ever sign. Nothing in the past or in the future will surpass it. Therefore, I am mandatorily requesting that all countries immediately sign the Abraham Accords, and that if Iran signs its agreement with me as President of the United States of America, it would be an honor to have them also be a part of this unparalleled world coalition. The Middle East would be united, powerful, and economically strong like perhaps no other area anywhere in the world. By copy of this truth, I am asking my representatives to begin and successfully complete the process of signing these countries into the already historic Abraham Accords. That was a long tweet, but it's important to understand the mindset that Trump has going forward. He's telling Iran, sign on to this peace deal, and be a part of this larger group of peace, and it will give you economic prosperity unlike anything you've ever seen before. The question is, though, does economic prosperity appeal to them, or is there a conflict with their radical ideology? Trump also provided an update on the Iran deal and options for disposal of the enriched uranium. Remember, this is one of the one part of the foundation of the overall deal, right? This Abraham Accord stuff, it's kind of a side note, even though it is widely important and would be monumental in ways that most people won't even comprehend, and Trump won't get credit for it. But we'll see how that plays out. Even if that's a thing, that may not even be on the table. But Donald Trump does want that, and if there's a possibility of it, I don't think he would have posted anything about it if there wasn't a possibility that that could actually happen. So, and one thing that most people completely forget is that the president of the United States, whether it's Trump or anybody else, has far more information than you have. All right. So as you're putting together your theories and your hypothesis about what's going on and the right and the wrong moves that are being made when it comes to Iran, you don't know jack, bro. You don't know jack squat about what is actually happening. And that includes me. I'm taking what information I do have and I'm piecing together my opinion on it. But don't when you go online and you're seeing these different people's opinions about what's good and what's not. We saw the same thing with people. So Donald Trump alluded to the fact that they may have a deal, or the administration alluded to the fact over the weekend that, hey, we might have a deal. And all of a sudden, social media blows up with government officials, by the way, who their words carry more weight than just the average Joe Blow on the internet. So some people look at them, which, by the way, I suggest you never take a politician at their word, but a lot of people do, and they see this and they assume that, hey, it must be true. Like, they're in the know. They know what they're talking about. And they were completely wrong about it. They had no idea what they're talking about. And I'll give you that example in a minute. But he gave an update on the Iran deal when it comes to the enriched uranium, which is one of the big parts of this. He said, it goes through and it says he provided an update. Iran is expected to agree to a 60-day memorandum, and this was part of the deal that was unfolding over the weekend. A memorandum of understanding that will ultimately end the war between the U.S. and Iran if negotiated terms are met in the coming months. It is now reported that after Trump's conference call with the Gulf and Arab leaders on Saturday, which Trump, as you just heard, announced was a success, Iran's supreme leader approving the deal pending additional review from Iranian leadership. Iran has also reportedly agreed in principle to dispose of the highly enriched uranium. Now, is that actually true? We don't know, so don't take that as gospel. Trump said in a statement, when it comes to the uranium, he said the enriched uranium, nuclear dust, will either be immediately turned over to the United States to be brought home and destroyed, or preferably in conjunction and coordination with the Islamic Republic of Iran, destroyed in place or at another acceptable location, with the Atomic Energy Commission or its equivalent being witness to the process and event. So what he's saying is, yeah, we're going to get the nuclear dust, we're going to get the uranium, but we don't even necessarily have to bring it over here. We can send people over there to destroy it on site, but either way, it doesn't change the fact that you can't have it.